Happy Friday, everyone. I have a topic on community and business, specifically the importance of community with running a business. Now, bear in mind, I don't know that I've ever really said this in these videos, but the main premise here is that you're in a business that's kind of between that startup to 100 to 150,000 range in terms of your ability to profit. So not necessarily, if you're an installation company or you're doing storefront like that and your overall income, your gross revenues high. We're talking more just kind of your take home and smaller businesses in that sense. So kind of have four things here on why I'm going to make an argument for trying to have a community within the world of business and why I think it's important. So I do think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or own a business, specifically sole proprietors, who don't necessarily need a team or employees, can often have a lone wolf tendency, something that I'm not immune from. I definitely have a lot of my job that I really do like doing alone. And I like doing, I would say, in solitude of others, not necessarily in isolation of others. I do value people, as the point of this video is. So I think it is important to separate lone wolf versus you do a lot of good work on your own. So if you do good work on your own, that's fantastic. The issue is if you exclusively reject input and other people, and there's so many things we can talk about with that on creative tasks and other things where there's different philosophies. I'm going to stick with one, and it's importance of having a community for that input. So I'll talk more on that, but I think finding a community of like-minded business owners, a small community is totally fine, is the crux of this. So 4 specific things that I think are relevant to that, and really kind of my off-the-cuff argument for what I would say is the utility of that. So just basic start is that community is important. So we know for physical health and mental health that good relationships and being in relationships and community are good for you. You will see physical and mental health improvement when you have a healthy community. And those are just staples for healthy living, staples for longevity, staples for self-report, joy, and happiness. It's across the board. There is no deficit to, as far as I've seen, ever across any study, there is no downside or deficit to having a community of healthy people. I will say that word healthy multiple times because that's important. There are plenty of toxic communities and unhealthy communities and immature communities and relationships, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about healthy-minded people, and that's a different video for exactly how to decipher those. I'm going to list a couple of reasons here as to what constitutes healthy, but mostly that's very in-depth and something for a different video. But something to know is how you feel in that group. Do you feel energized, equipped, encouraged, supported, loved, like you belong, cared for in these groups overall? That's a good sign. And do you feel like you get to act more out of fear than out of love? That's another good sign. So community is important, and I do believe that carries over to business health too. If you have a good community of good business owners in terms of healthy and their approach is healthy, they're not trying to inappropriately manipulate things and create unhealthy advantage in business, but they are actively trying to make themselves and the world and their business better. That's really what I'm getting at. So that leads into point number 2, which is shared values. Whether this be things like faith or philosophy, it's just a shared understanding of the world and business and goals overall. So when those are misaligned, we're going to have a misaligned relationship and a bit of a misaligned community. Now, we don't need 100% similarity on things, and I challenge you to even find that if you can, but you're looking for general cohesiveness overall, and ideally a similar root in what you're going for. So that way, even when there are disagreements, you're both falling back on the same thing, and you both have the same root belief, but maybe the actions are different, or how we express that is different, and I think it's this way, and I think it's this way, and that's fun. So it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be 100% across the board the exact same thing. So general agreement is helpful for those interactions. So again, worldview, faith, philosophy, and also looking at goals for your business and goals for the broader community or world. Are you trying to make the same change overall? And when people are speaking into you and you're speaking into their business, if you don't know what those things are, the values, there's going to be a misattribution of things, and you're going to incorrectly speak into them, and you will be incorrectly spoken into if people don't understand you. So that's the second thing. Third thing is vulnerability. Vulnerability is important. Just a willingness to be vulnerable will take you very far. Now, there is a level of trust that matters. So I don't argue that vulnerability should be a free gift. I think that should be something that is earned by people. You earn vulnerability in healthy relationships. You earn it through mutual respect and mutual encouragement and proof that you are trustworthy, or at least very strong evidence that you are going to respond well. When I am vulnerable, you're not going to take that and break it, and you're not going to put me down, but you're going to encourage my ideas. You're going to help me in moments where I'm struggling with business and life. So knowing that we can be honest about our struggles, open about our struggles and successes, that's important too, that your successes are that's vulnerable when you share that, because people can put you down or encourage you in that regard too. Or they can instead tell you about their success or how they would do it better. And you want to be on both sides of that in a healthy way, that you can share disappointment and struggle, and you can also share success and growth with them. So, and that'll help prime you for good encouragement and good guidance. And the fourth and final thing for this video is the importance of teachability. Everyone must be teachable in your group. And now that's for a fully healthy group. If you have people in there that you are training to be teachable, that's a different thing. That's kind of less of a business group that's going to help you directly, unless part of what you do for your business is developing people. So, but teachability is important. Everyone has to be teachable. You have to be willing to receive correction and education, and to assume the role of learner, and even assume the role of a fool at times, to receive education and guidance and knowledge on a topic that you're not an expert on, especially and kind of exclusively when the people around you are an expert, or at the very least where you are just one tick below or even equal, where you might not be seeing the full perspective of this. But honestly, having a teachable mindset, no matter what, even when you know more than people around you, is going to help, because there's always different perspectives in the room. Even if you are more educated and more experienced, your worldview and perspective are going to be naturally limited because you're a singular person. And there's just things that you won't see, things you won't know. So teachability is extremely important. And the people around you have to be the same way. This is the group dynamic of teachability. So everyone must be willing to allow you to step in and assist in their growth. Now, there is some kind of, you have to be wise and you have to discern this space and understand what's going on, because you might not have the right to step up. You might really not know what you're talking about. And again, if all the other steps are there, vulnerability is right, is shared values, everyone's teachable, they can let you know that you are out of line with that, or you can receive that in a humbling way that's loving, as opposed to a condemning and insulting way. That's a good group dynamic. So teachability, very important. And it's also important that you are willing to teach. Some people are overstepping in that way. Other people don't really put themselves out there, and you will be refined by your ability to teach. So one of the reasons I do these videos is to help refine me. Do I know what I'm talking about? Have I practiced saying them? And I think sometimes they come out fine, other times really well, other times meh. And the whole point is refine my ability to share and teach and communicate in this process. And that's important for everyone in these types of groups, myself included. This is a space to sharpen yourself and become better at how you communicate really anything, but definitely how you can teach and express and absorb information. So being able to teach and educate others is actually a really good way to see how much you know a topic, how internalized is it. And this is a totally different video's topic, but the more you can teach something, the more you understand what that is. I'm not going to say that's always 1-to-1 ratio there, but really, if you're not in the habit of teaching people about what you do or practicing explaining it, you're severely missing out on refining your education process. So that's where these groups can be helpful as well. So again, the 4 things: community is important, having shared values is important, being vulnerable is important, and knowing that everyone in the group is teachable, including yourself, is important. So yeah, I know the field of business can really push a lot of isolation, I think I talked about earlier. Especially bigger YouTube channels and influencers, you'll hear a lot of these people on this strong grind set and this really common thing of remove yourself from society and refine yourself. I think a lot of these people would still argue that being around the right people is important. So I just want to encourage not to do a full removal. There are absolutely times where it makes sense to be around less people. But also, bearing in mind that I'm not sitting here saying that you should be doing, 10 different groups, try to find a think tank here, networking event there. I'm doing them weekly. I'm taking courses and classes. You're probably just oversaturating yourself with people, and you're not going to build a good relationship that way. You need smaller groups to focus in on the relationship building process, smaller groups with devoted time. And you're not going to hit some of the steps if you don't have the focus time. Just being around people constantly will not get you the community piece. You can watch a TV show. I mean, how many of you feel more connected to characters on a TV show than actual communities you're in? And that's probably because you watch the show so much that you actually know them more than the people you're around. So you have to invest in the community that you are saying that you're investing in. And again, this is not an isolation technique to have smaller groups. And it's not going to be helpful to only isolate and remove yourself. If you're in a season of growth, sure, you're going to need some solitude where you connect. But even in those moments, it's not healthy to completely remove yourself from people. If everyone in your life is unhealthy and you have to start over, I get that. That's fine. But when you have healthy relationships, you need to at least pick a couple to stay really connected with. So we can strip ourselves back on our overall responsibilities, but it won't be helpful to completely eliminate people from our lives. So don't go full isolation mode. Be around people who actively push you to be better and vice versa. And always have things that you're learning from and always have things that you are teaching others. So it's my encouragement. Happy Friday. Thank you all. If you're interested in any type of business coaching, hit me up. Contact info in the description. Any questions you have. Sparse comment section, like I've said before. So that's my positive outlook is I'm easy to be in touch with right now. So whether that's just whatever questions, coaching, consulting, or otherwise, throw them in the comments or shoot me an email and we'll see what we can do. Thanks, y'all. See you soon.